Good. So welcome to this session. This is about agile project management for all professionals. So I'm not restricting it to. I'm not restricting it to the IT professionals. Now I've generalized this training to all professionals from every domain of project management, because now agile is getting institutionalized across domains. So it is getting into EPC projects also, because the PMI, the latest version of PMBOK and the PMP exam content, now they have made, they have come out with this hybrid project management, which is combining agile with the predictive project management. Uh, so it is becoming popular that way. A little bit about myself. Uh, my official name is Abrachan. You can call me AB. I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, then a master's in quality management. Then I have all these certifications like PMP, Prince2, PMI, ACP, CSM, blah, blah. Then established PMRI campus and the PMRI. PMRI stands for Project Management Research Institute. And PMRI Campus is the educational portal of Project Management Research Institute. And even this initiative, this training, this webinar is an initiative of PMRI Campus. I've conducted around 500 plus public workshops covering more than 15,000 project management professionals from different geographies and disciplines. Done customized trainings for Dubai Aluminium, Qatar Electric, Nakhil, Damac, ABB, PDO, Ericsson. A lot of big names are here from various types of domains. And I've done extensive research on project management best practices, covering PMBOK, Prince, and the TCM frameworks and Agile frameworks also. And I work on a part-time mode with Wrench Solutions. I'm a domain expert there. Wrench Solutions have a project management tool used for construction project management for EPC projects. The tool name is Smart Project. So I work very closely with the CEO and the marketing team, and I'm part of the senior management team there. So that is about me, and some of the ground rules for this particular session. What we do is we'll keep the microphones mute. Yes, all your microphones are mute while joining. And whenever you have a question, please post your question, and we'll have a question answer session at the end. So whatever questions, as and when you have a question, please post it. I'll answer them towards the end of the session. Now, the key topics we'll be covering today are, what is Agile and when to apply Agile, and what is hybrid project management. Then we'll talk in depth about Scrum, which is one of the most popular Agile frameworks. And we'll get into the building blocks of Scrum, like the product backlog, sprint planning meeting, definition of done, sprint backlog, daily scrums, sprint burndown chart, tracking board, sprint reviews, and the sprint retrospectives. We have sufficient time, so I'm sharing these things to you as if you don't know Agile. So I'll get into the basics. So whatever questions you want to ask me, please ask. Now, what is Agile? Agile, the common thing across all Agile framework is the central theme is the iteration. So In the traditional project management or the predictive project management, we do end-to-end planning with milestones and then track the milestones till the end of the project. Where here everything goes in iterations and maximum duration of the iteration is 30 days. So in 30 days time, we develop something and every 30 days time, we know the validity of what we developed. So that is the advantage of having an iterative approach. So every agile framework, the central theme is the iteration. In Scrum, they call it as a sprint, but the common terminology is the iteration. In the industry, people use both iteration as well as sprint intermittently. Both are same. Now, when to go for agile? When the scope is very ambiguous, scope is not clear, and the techniques and the technology used is also ambiguous, uh, then agile is the right thing. uh, and means any new product development, or you're developing a website, or you are in the design phase of a new building, things are just evolving, the scope definition is not complete yet. Maybe that phase of the project, agile will fit in because it is about rapid prototyping, idea generation, and then when you see something, okay, you get more ideas. So the predictive styles will not work there, because if you go by a fixed mindset, we will not allow the stakeholders to really come out with the better ideas. Maybe you can position yourself as a let's say you are developing a website for your personal use. You may give a set of requirements to the developer, but when you see it for the first time, you'll have another n number of requirements coming in. So in that kind of an environment, it is better to use agile. And the project domain also should facilitate change. If in an EPC project, okay, till you start pouring concrete, agile can hold good. The moment you start the real construction work, there only predictive styles will work, because the engineering discipline doesn't allow change in the construction industry. So when the real construction starts, it has to be predictive style. But till you approach, till your work package definitions, your drawings, uh, all those stages, it's easy to change because that it is evolving stuff. There we can apply agile principles. But when the real construction starts, there it can be difficult to apply these things. Yeah, this is exactly what I already told you. It is there here in the form of a slide. Uh, but then the PMI has come out with something called hybrid project management. So there are two ways of looking at it. Hybrid means it's a combination of predictive styles and agile styles. Now, if you take a construction project, scope definition, we can manage it fully the agile way. Design and engineering, the fully we can manage the agile way. Procurement, part of it we can follow the agile, fully agile. But when it comes to construction, it can be predictive. So this is also hybrid. Or every phase, we can go with the predictive thing. You plan, do, check, and act. And within that, you can plug in the agile best practices, like a daily stand-up meeting, and every week you have a planning meeting for the week. At the end of the week, there is a review meeting to see what happened during the week. That means we are borrowing things from the agile spectrum to the traditional project management, and we mix it up, and we use that mixture from the start till the end of the project. That is also hybrid. So how we use it, whether in some phases clean agile and some phases clean predictive, or in every phase a mixture of agile and predictive, that is up to the project manager to strategize. There is no hard and fast rule about it. So this way of working, we call it as hybrid project management. So with the new version of the PMBOK expected from the PMI USA, the key thrust area is hybrid project management. And personally, I'm very happy about it, because when you scout around in the industry, nobody is following true predictive and nobody is following true agile. Now, through hybrid, we are institutionalizing this imperfection. It is okay, yeah, because ultimately the project is more important, not the processes you are following. So you follow whatever will be effective for you. That is the new thought pattern. Okay. So if you have any questions, please post it in the chat window. Uh, okay. Now, here are the some of the popular agile frameworks. We have Scrum, then we have TDD. TDD stands for test-driven development. Uh, then there is it is actually FDD, not RDD. FDD stands for feature-driven development. Then XP is there. XP stands for extreme programming. Scaled agile is there. Disciplined agile is there. Crystal is there. Then there are a lot more. Uh, Now, out of this, Scrum is most popular because it is not very domain dependent. It can be used across domains, and Scrum is very easy to understand. It's a very lightweight framework, very easy to understand. And I got introduced to Scrum maybe 10 years back, maybe two. It is not 10 years, it is, yeah, 15, 16 years. 2004, I got introduced to Scrum. Um, and after that, I've trained several organizations and I've participated in assignments where we transition teams from waterfall to agile. Okay, now only it is really gaining momentum because of distributed teams and working from home. We don't have any other go but to be agile, because the concept of co-location is lost, because now, because of this pandemic, we are no more working from the same location. We are working remotely. We are working from home, so there is no other go but to have a daily meeting, weekly target setting, weekly reviews. This is the right time, the right, uh, yeah, the right fertile soil for agile practices to take roots and flourish. It is a very lightweight framework, and because of that itself, the challenge is there is nothing to delete from it. So either you do it or you don't do it. That's it. Very lightweight framework helps people and teams and organizations to generate value, adaptive solutions to complex problems. Typically R&D projects where you're designing a new vehicle, uh, it has to be iterated. It has to be iterated. Then only we can generate the ideas, and it is purposefully incomplete. The founders themselves are saying that it is not. It is just a guideline. We have kept it purposefully incomplete, so they don't. It's not very prescriptive. They don't tell you exactly how to do it. They just say this is how it must be done, kind of thing. But they don't go step by step process for it. So if you are interested, you can actually download the Scrum Guide. If you go to Google and then type Scrum Guides dot for a Scrum Guide, you'll get the link to download the Scrum Guide. which is just a 15-page document by the founders of Scrum, that is Ken Squaber and Jeff Sutherland. They founded Scrum almost 20 years back. They are still active, and the Scrum Guide is a very thin document, hardly 13, 14 pages. So it'll be a good idea to download that after the session and just go and just go through it. In the traditional project management, we were talking about highly structured teams, whereas here we are talking about teams like this. They may have titles, they may have roles, but ultimately they all play to win. When the game starts, it doesn't matter who does what. This is like the total football in the dying stages, where sometimes you can see even the goalkeeper going and all out and trying to go and hit that goal. Actually, as per his title, is the goalkeeper, but then okay, they want to win, and so sometimes they go all out and play. So in Scrum, we are talking about teams like this, and when you really look at this team, they are all fit physically and mentally. They are fit, tough guys. And there is a referee here. He is more like the Scrum Master because there is no project manager here. The project manager is known as the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master's job is to ensure that the project is happening as per the Scrum ground rules. You cannot do anything. Yeah, it should follow the Scrum pattern. So adherence to Scrum is the key goal of the Scrum Master. And for as every project, there can be a lot of spectators who doesn't really do any direct work related to the project, but still they have interest in what's happening. So we may get a lot of spectators here as well. Sometimes the spectators will try to invade the field. Then it is the job of the Scrum Master to safeguard his team from all these invasions. So it is a tough job. That's why we are calling that position as a servant leader. You are at the service of others. You protect your team, you coach your team, you help them out. Whenever they face issues, you know you remove impediments and blockers for the team so that they can really concentrate on their work and become successful. So the Scrum Master's attitude is not a command and control freak. He's more of a contribution freak. So that is the mindset required to be a successful Scrum Master. And this is a Scrum overview. We have a product backlog. A product backlog is nothing but a set of features that may or may not get into the product. So as a product owner, I think about the final deliverable of the project, and I just note down in an Excel sheet or a sheet of paper. I keep writing down things. My house, if it is a house, I may say my house should have an office room, 5 bedrooms, car park area, swimming pool, whatnot. Yeah, so everything I keep running, 2 kitchens and servant room. Yeah, no, there is no restriction to be creative, so you can keep adding things to the product backlog. It's a unvalidated, unverified list of probable features that may or may not get into the product. So all committed product managers, they are always thinking about how to improve their product. So they look at things of improving it further and further. So they keep adding things to the product backlog. Because most of these product owners, they become very creative, especially while traveling. Or Tim Cook is saying he gets creative ideas when he does his morning walk. So no, people don't get highly creative when they sit in front of the computer to work. They get creative ideas when they do something else. Immediately, he'll make an entry into the product backlog before he forgets. And in the Scrum circle or in the Agile world, we say that when the product backlog stops growing, it is an assumption that it is a death of the product. It is time to scrap the product. So if you look at Apple now, I'm sure that they will not be adding anything to the product backlog of iPod because it is no more there. They have scrapped it already. So otherwise, they're adding new entries into the iWatch. They're adding new entries into the iPad and their computers and maybe new products. So every live product, new things will get added to the product backlog. A static product backlog indicates that it is either the end of life of the product or the product owner. And highly enthusiastic product owner will always add things to the product backlog. Then we get into the sprint. When you say sprint, it is a 30-day cycle. So a sprint duration cannot be more than 30 days because there is a philosophy. If I cut a 60-day sprint, then I'll know whether I succeeded or failed in 60 days time only. And there is no time for recovery after that. That's why they have stipulated it at a 30-day sprint. So every 30 days time, we decide every 30 days time we should know whether we succeeded or failed, because in the Scrum, fast failure is considered a success. Because one of the organizations, when I went for it was a pre-sale meeting, and their requirement was to transition a team from predictive model, that is a waterfall style, to agile. And I was curious because it is a well-known multinational company. And I was asking them, like, why are you doing this? What is the reason for doing this? Then at last they said that, okay, a 100-member team was working on a product for 3 years. And it took us 3 years to know that nobody wants this product. So we lost a lot of money. At least after the first 3 months or 6 months, if we had scrapped this product, we would have saved millions of dollars. So in new product development, this happens. You, with great enthusiasm, you develop a product uh, to realize that uh, to realize sorry to realize that, okay, there is no taker for your product. So that's why it is stipulated at a 30 days sprint. I'm not saying at the end of the sprint the product will come out. At the end of the 30-day cycle, whatever you agreed upon to develop during that sprint, we will check whether that has come out. So the first activity within the sprint is the sprint planning meeting. So it is typically an 8-hour planning meeting where the product owner prioritizes the features and tell the team, like, okay, these are the things I want to be developed in the current sprint. The team will have a lot of clarifications and questions. Everything will be answered by the product backlog, and collectively they commit on a set of features that can be developed during the sprint. So a subset of the product, the output of the sprint planning meeting is the sprint backlog. So sprint backlog is the list of refined items where the team is committed to the product owner. They're saying that they can develop it within the 30 days time. Then the team starts the sprint. The team start really work on it. The team start work on it, and every day there is a daily stand-up meeting. Fixed place, fixed duration. A daily stand-up meeting for a 10-member team cannot be more than 20 minutes. And they say three things. What did I do yesterday? What am I doing today? And what are the challenges I'm facing? And where and all I need help. That's it. So if there are others in the team can help him out, not in the meeting, maybe after the meeting. So every day, the entire team see the status of the work, status of that 30 days work. Every day they see collectively. They are not reporting it to the Scrum Master. Scrum Master is not required in the daily stand-up meeting or the daily Scrum. It is the team's meeting. It is not the manager's meeting. Then after the 30-day cycle, there is a sprint review. This 30-day cycle, you cannot say towards the end, we cannot say it is not over yet, we have not completed the work. Can we make it 32 days? Can we make it 33 days? That is not allowed. So the time is non-negotiable. 30-day sprint, tick, at the end of the 30-day time, all we need to check is, did we complete it or not? Is it as per the acceptance criteria? So that happens in the sprint retrospective meeting. So the sprint starts with the sprint planning meeting, the team sprints, daily stand-up meeting, and at the end of the 30th day, at the end of the sprint duration, we have the sprint review, and that is followed by a sprint retrospective meeting where the team discusses things like what all things we did correctly, what all things we can improve in the subsequent sprint. So they get into a retrospective meeting, and the increment of the product comes out of the sprint. Maybe in the sprint planning, we committed to develop 10 features. At the end of it, we have done only 9 features. It is okay. And that is a learning. So the next sprint, we'll commit only for that equivalent amount of work. So after 2-3 sprints, we exactly know how much we can deliver in a 30-day cycle. So that's how it proceeds. One key thing here is I said the duration of the sprint is 30-day cycle. Next question can be, can I run 15-day sprints? That is okay. Even weekly sprints are also okay. The only thing is you cannot keep on changing the duration of the sprint. You cannot say first sprint 5 days, next sprint 10 days, then another sprint 30 days. That is not okay. The issue is because the team will never learn to commit. The team will never learn anything about their capability and productivity. So if the sprint window is the same sprint after sprint, then there is a lot of learning. So don't keep on changing the duration of the sprint. Scrum team, there are hardly 3 roles. We have Scrum Master, Product Owner, and the development team. Only 3 roles are there in Scrum. Either you are a Product Owner, or you are a Scrum Master, or you are part of the development team. And the Scrum teams are cross-functional. When I say a development team, there can be people from the quality control. There can be people from the design whose core competence is design. There can be people whose core competence is safety. Uh, so testers, quantity surveyors. There can be people with different core skills can be there in the same team because they are required to build the product. So we say Scrum teams are, or all Agile teams are cross-functional that way, because we don't have a separate QA team, separate development team, separate documentation team. All these guys come together and form a single team and then work in the sprint. And the team is self-managing, means they are self-organizing. They don't wait for commands from the boss. The team decides how to really do the work, and only if they are unable to, if they have a real issue because of which they are unable to proceed, the terminology for that is only if they have a blocker, by way of a dependency issue from other teams and stuff like that. Only then they have uh, they seek the help of the boss. Otherwise, they are self-managing. Then the product owner, basically the product owner is responsible for maximizing the value of the product and effective product backlog management, because he keeps adding items into the product backlog and then prioritizing them. That is the key responsibility of the product owner. So here if you see after item 1, next item is item 5, because that is priority number 2. So he keeps shuffling this sprint after sprint because he gets feedback from the market, like what he wants, what is the priority in the market. So based on that, he keeps shuffling this. So ordering product backlog items, ensuring that the product backlog is transparent, visible, and understood. Product owner is one person, not a committee. The entire organization must support him. He may delegate some of his responsibilities, and at the same time, he is responsible, because this is a lot of work. And very often, the product owners may not be very technical. So, but at the same time, they are good uh, in their domain. Because one project I worked, the product owner was a doctor, because it was a medical system. The product owner was a doctor, and that person did not know even Excel sheet to maintain this product backlogs. Then the team only helped that person to really organize it and stuff like that. And that is what is really expected in a Scrum team. Uh, Before starting the sprints or the iterations, one major exercise that every team has to perform is the release planning. That is, we have this product backlog, and now let us say put together this product backlog has 210 weightage or equivalent. If I give weightages for each of the elements in the product backlog, put together, if it is coming to 210, then I should know how many sprints I should have to complete this 210. Sometimes sprints will go in parallel also. So I need to decide which feature will get into which sprint and what will be the sequence of sprints, how many sprints will go in parallel, and I should plan for the manpower for this. So this we call as the release planning for the entire product. So after sprint 1, 2, and 3, I'll make a release to the customer, get his feedback. Then sprint 4, 5, 6, and 7, collectively there is a release. Then after this sprint 8 to 13, I get into another release. 14 to 17, another release. 18 to 20, maybe the final release kind of thing. So this has to be planned. After that only we can start with the sprints. So within this, we need to really look at the dependencies also. Yeah, because if it is an engineering project, certain designs must be completed for me to start with some other set of design. There can be dependencies. Then it must be it must come in that sequence. Unless and until the substructure is completed, I cannot start with the superstructure kind of thing. So that logic also need to be factored in while deciding the sequence of the sprints. Then, so we discussed about the product owner roles, and the next is the Scrum Master role. The Scrum Master has to create an environment where the product owner orders the work for solving complex problem. The Scrum team develops an increment of the product during the sprint, and the Scrum team and its stakeholders inspects the results and adjusts for the next sprint, and the cycle repeats. Scrum Master's fundamental job is to ensure that the product is being developed using Scrum, because there can be always a tendency to go back to traditional styles. So that must be prevented as a Scrum Master. Then Scrum Master has three types of roles. One is the responsibility to the team, to the product owner, and to the organization. Scrum Master is accountable for establishing Scrum as defined in the Scrum Guide, train others the Scrum theory and practice, and is a true servant leader who serve the team and organization. We already discussed that a servant leader always believes that he is only as good as his team. He always try to contribute to the work. He help them out. He continuously augment the skills of the teams so that the team members can really uh, perform well. So he's not that command and control freak. He's more of a contribution freak. So a Scrum Master has to be a contribution freak. And his primary job is removing the bottlenecks faced by the team. If they're facing some issues which is hampering progress of their work, immediately Scrum Master has to pitch in and then solve it for them. That is the main job of a Scrum Master. So you should have effective stakeholder handling skills for problem solving. Then Scrum Master service to the team, coaching the team in self-management and cross-functionality, and helping the Scrum team focus on iteration, because a lot of other distractions can happen in the organization, but ultimately the Scrum Master has to ensure that his team's focus on the sprint is not lost, and causing the removal of impediments and ensuring that all Scrum events take place and are positive, productive, and kept within the time box. Planning meeting 8 hours, stand-up meeting 20 minutes, sprint 30 days, sprint review 4 hours, retrospective 2 hours. Everything is time boxed. So Scrum Master has to ensure that these things are happening within those timelines. Then Scrum Master service to the product owner. Find techniques for effective product goal definition, find techniques for effective product backlog management, helping the team understand the need for clear and concise product backlog definitions, and helping the team to establish empirical product planning and facilitating stakeholder collaboration. Then Scrum Master service to the organization. Again, find techniques for effective product goal definition. Because these days, even PMI has changed the success criteria of projects. So before it was just adherence to time, cost, and scope. That means if I complete a project within agreed upon time, cost, and met the scope, it was considered as successful. Now, even PMI in the PMBOK also says that a project is successful only if it is completed, only the product achieves its business goal. So that is a big paradigm shift actually. So here also the Scrum Master has to contribute a lot. And helping the team understand the need for clear and concise product backlog definitions. Many times when the planning meeting happens, the engineers commit to things without understanding the real scope. That is dangerous. So Scrum Master has to create a fearless environment where people can ask any question, maybe a good question or a bad question or a silly question. But then in an open environment, you should create an open environment where people can ask questions about the product fearlessly. Otherwise, you end up building something, a wrong product, which is disastrous for the sponsor. And helping to establish empirical product planning. When we say agile, there is a thinking like agile is ad hoc and a free for all kind of thing. But fortunately, agile is very stringent and everything is controlled. Everything we speak with numbers only. So we call it as high level of empiricism. So product backlog is there. For every backlog item, we give weightages on a 1 to 5 scale or whatever. And then collectively, we know totally what is the total sum of weightages to be completed for completing the product, and how many sprints, how many weightages we have scheduled, how much is completed, how much is planned. Everything we talk with numbers in Scrum. So agile, if somebody say it is ad hoc, that is lack of awareness. And facilitating stakeholder collaboration, that is also a tough task for the Scrum Master, because many of these stakeholders can be very senior in the hierarchy. And as a Scrum Master, one should facilitate collaboration of the stakeholders. That needs a special set of skill sets. Then the roles and responsibilities of the team, that is creating a plan for the sprint, the sprint backlog, instilling quality by adhering to the definition of done. Definition of done is very, very important. When we say definition of done, it states that once it is done, nobody is going to work on it again. The definition of done for a feature means it is done. That means end of it, it can be shipped to the customer. So definition of done is very, very critical in Scrum. When the definition of done is met by the feature developed, that has to be accepted by the product owner. Because the definition of done is the basis of mutual respect. So even in this webinar, I told you that, okay, I will deliver this many things in 1.5 hours time. And if I delivered that much, I've done my job. You should acknowledge that. And if you say this could, no, you should have added some other things also, that is okay. Maybe in the next training, not in this training. So this training, I've delivered whatever I promised. That means, okay, I've done my job. So this definition of done brings in mutual accountability and respect. That is very, very important in Scrum. And in a sprint, each person cannot blindly focus on his or her work alone, because ultimately, if there is a weak link in the team, the entire sprint can fail. Because we have planned for 10 features, 9 features got over, and one feature one person could not complete. The entire sprint is a failure. So it is not only doing your own work, you'll have to run around and help other team members also to be successful. Only then the sprint goal can be accomplished. And as a development team, you are responsible for creating a plan for the sprint, that is sprint backlog, which is the output of the sprint planning meeting. Instilling quality by adhering to the definition of done, adapting their plan each day towards the sprint goal. So every day before the stand-up meeting, they take stock of where we are, and will we achieve the targets on the 30th day. And based on that, they should decide either to accelerate or decelerate, or go back to the product owner and ask him to change some of the features if possible. So all those things collectively they should do, and holding each other accountable as professionals. So we discussed about the Scrum framework overall. We started with what is Agile, the key Agile frameworks, and what is hybrid project management. Then we got into Scrum. Then we started with the product backlog. I gave you an overview of Scrum. Then we discussed about the roles and responsibilities within Scrum, the product owner, Scrum Master, and the development team. And we said it is cross-functional teams. And now let us focus on the Scrum events. The main thing is the sprint. A sprint is the heartbeat of Scrum. Within the sprint, ideas are turned into features, and a fixed duration event. We said 30 days or 15 days, but the duration must be fixed. A new sprint starts immediately after the completion of one sprint. Focus is on the sprint goal. Quality not Quality must be adhered to. Uh, Scope may be clarified and negotiated with the product owner during the planning meeting and throughout the sprint as well. And each sprint a short project of maximum 30 days duration, and it is monitored through burn downs and burn ups and cumulative flow charts. I have some samples which I'll show you uh, towards the end of the training. And in sprint planning meeting, there is a sprint goal and the product backlog items selected for the sprint, and a plan for delivering them together forms the sprint backlog. So in the sprint planning meeting, as discussed before, it is for 30-day sprint, it is a 8-hour meeting. And in the first 4 hours, the product owner explains the features he wants. The team asks questions for clarity, and they together commit on a set of features they can develop in next 30 days time. And the second 4 hours time, the team decomposes those features into tasks to be performed to develop them, uh, and then performs the estimations also. So that is the and output is the clean committed items, the features and the associated tasks with their effort estimation and who is going to do what kind of resource allocation. There is no resource allocation. People volunteer for work. That is the essence of self-organizing team. So that is the output. Sprint goal, product backlog items selected for the sprint. So it's a frozen set of requirements that will be delivered at the end of the sprint. That is the sprint backlog. That is the output of the planning meeting. Then daily Scrum, 20 minutes meeting held at the same spot every day. This must happen, and the entire team should participate. Scrum Master's presence is not mandatory. Product owner's presence is not mandatory, and only the team can participate there. If you are not part of the team, and if you really want to know what is happening in the stand-up meeting, you can go and stand there, but you are not supposed to ask questions and participate in the meeting because it is the team's meeting. Only team members are supposed to talk in that meeting. So irrespective of your position, you're not supposed to hijack those meetings. This is an example of a burndown chart. This is a reversal of earned value management. Now, on the y-axis, the sum of the task estimates. Within a sprint, let's say I should complete 20 tasks, and if it has a effort estimate put together, now let us say I have a data point here. So when I start the sprint, I need, let us say, 300 man hours to complete the activities in the sprint. Then every day, the team revises their estimate by looking at the balance item to be completed. They revise their estimates on how much more effort is required to complete the balance task in the sprint, and they get data points. So as long as this data points is around this blue line, it is okay because you will achieve the sprint. On the y-axis, it is the duration of the sprint. On the x-axis, it is the duration of the sprint, and on the y-axis, it is the effort required to complete the balance activities within the sprint. It is more like landing the flight within the runway. So whenever if I fly, whenever the pilot says we are starting the descent, I immediately connect to this actually, the burn down chart. So y-axis is my altitude, and x-axis is the distance to the airport. And he says I'm starting the descent. Then always he's talking about distance and altitude, and he smoothly lands the flight within the runway. So a burn down chart is a great tool. Whenever you are approaching a major milestone, you put a burn down chart, and every day you track the progress towards that milestone and have a stand up meeting every day. And the team sees this burn down chart every day. Automatically, the peer pressure will build up. And yeah, this is a great way to track any milestone. Whenever your team is approaching a milestone, put earned value management is fine. It will tell you whether you achieved something or not. Whereas burn down chart will tell you whether you are going to achieve it or not. So both together, it is a great combination. Okay. So the team should see this burn down chart. They should update the burn down chart every day, and they should see the burn down chart also every day. And as a Scrum Master, this gives me, or if for any stakeholder of the project, this gives me great visibility into the sprint, and it will tell me very clearly where the team stands and whether they'll meet the sprint goal or not. If the balance effort is deviating away from the blue line, which is the ideal line, then we know that okay, there is some problem because it is deviating from the ideal. But if it is going below the blue line, I know that the team is going ahead of schedule. So as long as this red line is hovering around that blue line, which is the ideal, we are in safe zone. So this gives absolute visibility to what is happening within the sprint. Similarly, as a product owner, I can track the completion of the product at a product level. Now, let's say I plan for 11 sprints to complete my entire product backlog. And sprint after sprint or iteration after iteration, I'm completing certain features. And based on the features completed, I can decrement the burn down chart. This we call as uh, a release burn down chart. If you are using the burn down chart to monitor a sprint, we call it as a sprint burn down chart. If I'm using it to track the progress towards a release, that becomes a release burn down chart. And if I'm tracking it to monitor the final completion of the product, then it is known as the product burn down chart. The Scrum events, a quick review, product backlog maintained by the product owner. Then we get into the sprint. It starts with the sprint planning. Then we get into the sprinting by a self-organizing team. The team decides who will do what. And every day there is a daily stand-up meeting, and the team members report to each other. They stand in a circle and then say, what did I do yesterday? What am I doing today? And what are the issues I'm facing, kind of thing, so that others can also help. Then at the end of the 30th day, there is a sprint review meeting where all stakeholders comes together and they see the progress made by the team. And if they they have accomplished the definition of done and what is committed for the sprint, that means the sprint is successful, and they get into a retrospective meeting, and they get into the planning meeting for the subsequent sprint. Okay, so now sprint retrospective is a 3 hours meeting for 30 days sprint. Identifies the most helpful changes to improve. It's nothing but lessons learned. In traditional project management, we used to do it only at the end of a phase or at the end of the project. Here we are doing this at the end of every sprint so that the learnings can be pumped back into the subsequent sprints. So the learning gets incorporated into the same project itself or to the next sprint itself. Whereas in traditional project management, these lessons learned are captured for the usage of future projects, whereas here the lessons learned are captured for the usage in the subsequent sprint. That is the difference. Scrum has just 3 artifacts: the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the increment of the product. So with this, we have walked through the Scrum framework, started with the product backlog owned by the product owner, sprint planning meeting, sprinting. Every sprint has a sprint goal. Then every day, daily Scrum or the stand-up meeting. At the end of the sprint review and retrospective, and we get into the product increment as well. So now, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Let me. Yeah. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, or you can post it in the using the chat window. So now you can unmute yourself. So I've done with the slides. Now, if there are any questions, I can answer. You can unmute also now if you want to. Okay. If you don't have any questions, okay, yeah, it's fine. So thank you very much for participating in this event. The recording of this I'll be uploading to the YouTube channel of pmricampus.com. And those people who could not turn up for today can watch the recording. The recording will be available by tomorrow.